Welcome to the Heli Academy podcast. My name is Beth Dowdy. I am the Student Success Specialist here, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome, everyone, to another week of the Heli Academy podcast. My name is Eric.
And I'm Jared.
And this week, we're talking about the winter. Winter is coming.
Winter is here.
Winter is here. Yes. You know what?
Fall is here. The rain is
Fall
here,
is
I
here.
guess is what I'm trying to say.
I kind of love it, to be honest.
Oh, so good.
Last night, we had some storms roll through in the evening. You got the nice rain. It was so peaceful. It was great.
Really is.
I had my fake fire going, at least my LED fire. I was like, this is amazing.
But that's not the way students feel sometimes, though.
No, I know that. Yeah. So, and CFIs, if this is a young CFI's like first winter going in or a student's first winter going into their training, there's a lot of hesitation and there's a lot of, there's a little bit of, maybe stress about the winter and how it's going to affect their training. We come out of, this year was really great. We came out of, 5-6 months where, wind was less than 10 knots. We didn't have too many of those gorge windy days, like blue, clear skies. Like,
that was good.
We had to worry about, hot temperatures, not cold temperatures. And so, anytime there's change, there's a little, little hesitation there. And I think that's okay. But I think that's one of the big reasons, we're going to talk about our procedures and all that kind of stuff for cold weather, but just kind of to directly kind of attack this fear around the winter and training is, I think, the best way to approach it all. This is my fifth winter here, and I gotta say, and I tell all the instructors this when they start getting nervous. I said my biggest flying months were January and February.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah. And, it was, I was teaching CFI. And so, it was I was a little bit more comfortable, I think, with the training environment and how to keep students progressing. But, and this is really what it is on the winter. It's being flexible, being adaptable, so you're in the IFR course and, weather's not going to cooperate with you. And, hey, look, IFRs in the morning might not happen every now and then. But they usually happen in the evening, right? And so just being flexible and being strategic and keep yourself progressing, right? I think one of the things that I'm really pushing is like, don't just cancel, right? What can we go do? And I think that's where I was in my career at that point, where I was like, okay, what can we go do? And then we went out and accomplished something. And, I was over 100 hours, 2 months in a row. And students loving it. Is great. And it's good flying experience.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to touch on that. I think that's one of the most important things to remember. If you're looking for a school that has, no experience at all, that's not this school. The thing that we love about flying here is that we get all the seasons. We get hot during the summer, we get cool during the winter, we get the rain, we get weather, real world experience. Because when you go out there in the industry, you're gonna experience all this weather. And if you're not prepared for it, if you don't do it during your training, if you don't learn how to deal with saying no when it's not safe, or saying yes when it's safe but maybe not perfect, you're going to have a hard time in the industry. And I think, we've talked about this before on the podcast, and that is learning when and how to say no.
Yeah.
It's really important. When it's not safe, when it is hazardous, you have to be able to say no. And that's one of the things that I think is really valuable about learning to fly here in the Pacific Northwest.
You brought up something, that's such a great point. We're all about developing professionalism, right?
Yeah.
We're about developing professional pilots. And one of the things that we really hang our hat on is teaching somebody how to make a decision.
Yeah.
Right?
That's probably one of the most important things.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's where pilots really stand out from, and our graduates really stand out from others, So you're an operator, right? Let's take ourselves. Say we're not Hillsboro at this point. We're not Hillsboro Heli Academy. You're an operator, and you got this guy that comes over, and all of a sudden he's doing a lot of cancellation, and you start to realize that he's learning how to make decisions. But you're a commercial operator. Basically, he's learning that process on your dime. I bet you that's not kosher for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
No. So being in this environment as a student, being in this environment as an instructor, yeah, I'd say that makes you really remarkable. I had a DP. This is the story I love to tell when people are all worried about the winter and stuff like that. Is I had a DP from Southern California, LA, right? And even LA, they got the fog in the morning and all that kind of stuff. And so he called and he says, "Hey, what's the, so I'm coming up next week doing this, and this." And he goes, "What's the weather supposed to look like?" I was like, "Oh, it'll be fine, a little rainy, but it'll be good." And he goes, "Oh, your pilots, they know how to fly in the weather. They're Oregon pilots."
Yeah, exactly.
And I just kind of laughed. I said, yeah. And he came in and, made it work.
But that's not saying our students fly in unsafe conditions. It's saying our students know when and how to fly in weather.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to be deterred by, there's a cloud all of a sudden, right? Look, anywhere you go, you're going to have weather to deal with, right? You go to, Arizona or New Mexico and it's just blazing heat and you got to deal with that. And, now it's windy and high days and you're worried about all these things. And then you get the big thunderstorms that roll through. I got a buddy working down North Texas right now, and he's like, "I miss it." I miss it because these big thunderstorms are crazy. And so look, it's incredibly valuable for the rest of your career. Just being a part of that process, going through those exercises and learning about weather. I mean,
yeah. Well, even Papillon down in Las Vegas, right? They're actually going to come up and visit us here shortly, talk to our students, and the DO down there always says how he loves our graduates because our graduates can fly in the wind, and of course we know Vegas, it's going to get real windy there.
Oh, very windy, yeah.
And here in the mouth of the gorge, we get the wind, but the students learn how to fly with it. The students learn how to be safe with it. And the instructors learn how to fly in it.
We also have Temsco coming out.
Oh, yeah.
And the chief pilot, Eric,
they operate in Alaska.
Yeah, they operate in Alaska. And, Denali with the weather and, the winter storms that come through, it's pretty, it's real out there. And it changes fast. And they don't have a whole lot of, resources in some of the places that they're flying. But that was a compliment that he paid this year. He goes, "Yeah, they make great decisions. Your pilots this season make great decisions." And I was like, "Man, that's awesome." And from a guy that's seen a lot of pilots come through that operation to get that compliment, it's high praise.
Yeah, I want that to continue.
Yeah.
So let's focus on that during this podcast.
Love it.
So let's talk about when to say no and when to say go.
Yeah, love it. Everything is situationally dependent, right? So going through all of your resources, I never omit a resource, right? If I'm looking at the weather and I'm like, okay, I need to be as educated as possible first and foremost, right? Your preparation work is incredibly valuable, incredibly important. You can pick up on trends. You can pick up on local weather situations, and that's so incredibly valuable. And then as well, like lean on your fellow pilots and get a PIREP, and all that stuff is incredibly valuable. So first and foremost, get educated, right? Get all your information.
Use your resources.
Use all of them. Everything is valuable, right? And then once you get there, I think an early instructor has two tendencies. I think they have a tendency to be conservative, or they have a tendency to go and get experience. And I think that's two sides of the pendulum, right? The center of the pendulum is basically this. Am I able to go out and accomplish what my initial plan was for today?
Yeah.
Right? Say that doesn't work. right? That's kind of my first pin, right? Or my first like, no, I can't go accomplish what. But okay, so say I got an IFR student, can't do an IFR flight. What about a commercial flight, right? Are we prepared for that? Is that something that we can do within our time constraints? Like, is the student prepared for it? Is that something that we could do?
Or let's say you have an IFR flight that's planned to go north. What does the south look like?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So being open.
Exactly. Being open to it, right?
Yep.
Understanding that we're also changing the plan maybe a little bit. So understanding that you need time. It can't be like, we're in the air already and we're not looking at our resources. Like that's part of the preparation kind of phase, I would say.
Absolutely.
Changing plans last minute, that's how things go wrong. So I think for me, that's a really big one. But I love when we, as instructors and young instructors, it's just a huge maturity step that I see in them when they can look at it and go, is this going to be beneficial for my student? Either in their training, either in their experience. Do they need this experience, right?
Yeah.
Or is this something that wouldn't be beneficial in that way?
Yeah,
so
don't go out just to burn hours.
Oh no, absolutely not. Right?
No, make it worthwhile.
Sometimes when it's a little bit, gusting 15, gusting 16, it's a little bit, okay, what an amazing opportunity to go
Great
work on your
experience. Yeah.
approaches as a commercial pilot.
Yeah.
Right. And amazing. You got a commercial student, go. Don't
Absolutely.
the ceilings are 900 feet. Go get special VFR.
Absolutely.
Go fly in those conditions. Go watch those clouds. Right. That's amazing. Even getting special VFR and going out there when it's a little less than VFR, that's an amazing experience. That's when you teach some really valuable things that can make a really big impact in someone's training in their career. Let's look at those clouds. See how they're moving in from the river, and okay, they're a little bit lower than projected. Okay, so how do we measure that? And we'll do a little bit of hinting at inadvertent here in a minute, but all that is incredibly valuable, right? And so don't shy away from those. Those are good for you. Those are good for your students, right? Go get those experiences, right?
Yeah.
Don't put yourself up in the mountains when you got mountain obscuration all over the hills because it's cold up in those valleys. Don't do that, right? Obviously, we're not going to make those decisions, but you're right. Figuring out actually, this would be a great experience. Let's go. Let's take it. Just take control of the conditions and our opportunities and go make it worth our while. And
Yeah.
I think that's how we create good pilots.
Absolutely. I mean, good pilots, that's the key, right? So if you're here to become a better pilot, if you're here to be a good pilot, why wouldn't you use the opportunity? Why wouldn't you use the opportunity to make yourself better and to fly in those conditions that push you beyond where you're comfortable? Now, not talking about pushing the instructor, right? The student, you need to grow your comfortability and you need to grow in your pilot skills. And so why wouldn't you're spending the money? You're spending a lot of money on your flight training, right? Why wouldn't you take that opportunity to make yourself a better pilot?
That's right.
Yeah. So let's say you go for your flight.
Mm.
Let's talk about en route decision triggers.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the most valuable tools a pilot can have in his toolbox, and it is so easily overlooked. And it is so easily misunderstood.
Mm.
So what is an en route decision trigger? An en route decision trigger is something that you put up in your mind before you ever go fly the helicopter, before you ever hit the starter button, before you ever turn the key, right? You say, these are my limits and I'm not going to budge on these limits. And that's so, so important because it's so easy when we're up flying to just a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. And that's where you get yourself into trouble.
Oh yeah.
Especially, so, flying, we say we want to go push yourself, go get out in that situation. So it's even more important to stress, you gotta have your limits and you have to stick to them. Absolutely.
And I think this is the same for you. And this has kind of come out of, our CFI community as well. We have all these things and they're built from experience, right? And we lean on each other's experiences and we learn and we grow. And so for me, a lot of these en route decision triggers are from, people that have mentored me, yourself, and my previous CFIs, and then, other CFIs that I work with that have gotten into things and having those conversations. And so we want to pass those things down because we want to get smarter collectively as a community. And so I think for me, these are really big. For me, I don't like rapidly changing conditions.
Okay.
All right.
That's a good one.
So if I go out and I'm like, this is not what was forecasted, right? Why am I continuing in a situation where I flat out, I don't know what's really happening here, right? All my pre-flight work and looking at my resources, like this is not that.
Yeah. So a difference between your expectations and then the reality of the weather.
Exactly. And honestly, that happens a lot. Look, we're limited on where some of our weather resources are. And that, depending on how remote you're flying, that's normal process, right? So you need to know what to expect. And if you get out there and this is like, this is not what I was expecting out here, then why am I continuing on that? So that's first and foremost for me, right? And I don't like things that change rapidly.
Yep.
Right? I don't like weather that changes rapidly. Like if I have a frontal system coming through and I know that thing's going to be spinning on a dime, right? Why am I out in those conditions, right? Let me wait an hour or two. Let me get behind the system where it all stabilizes. I don't like rapidly changing conditions. And it's just, can we handle it? Sure. But would we enjoy it? No. Like this is terrible. Let's get out of here, right? This isn't a great experience. I don't like being on the edge of my seat trying to do instruction. That's just not a comfortable place. So sometimes you're on the edge of your seat anyway. So, it is what it is. Yeah. So that's one for me, right? And then let's put it in a scenario, right? We're going down the gorge, and the gorge is classic for, maybe some cloud layers being different than what we expected in the valley, right? We're in a different kind of environment. We go down, and maybe those clouds are kind of hitting the hillside on the south and dropping down towards the north. Okay, now we got some different layers of clouds and all that kind of stuff. Or maybe I got a cell rolling through it. There could be a lot of things happening. And all of a sudden I'm looking at this weather, and maybe it's raining a little bit, right? First and foremost for me, visibility, right? Is it moving with me or is it deteriorating, right? Yeah. For us, we got a 3 statute mile limitation, right? That's our SOP. If it drops below 3 statute miles, then obviously we don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Right?
We can make exceptions within the airspace and in the pattern.
That's right.
And those are very controlled environments.
Yes.
Right. But when we're out and about, our company school minimum is 3.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention that depending on what airspace we're in, we could be breaking weather minimums, right?
Yeah.
Right. But say I'm rocking down the gorge and I'm like, it's this rain's dropping the visibility a little bit and dropping the visibility. And then, maybe I got some clouds. That's just kind of a situation where you're like, eh. So what I like to do is like, if that visibility is moving with me, right? I know it's not reducing, but all of a sudden, if I'm looking at, an object, call it Rooster Rock, call it, Bonneville Dam or something like that. And I'm like, oh, great, it's moving. Oh, I can see Bonneville. And then all of a sudden I can't see past Bonneville. Well, then now I'm getting, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 2. If I start getting where I'm like, how far is 3 statute miles? Boom, that's a trigger for me.
Yeah.
As soon as I start thinking about it, like, okay, what's a mile? Like, because how many of us can look out and go, that's 3 miles right there?
Yeah. If you're sitting there wondering whether or not you're below 3 statute miles,
boom, you're
that's
done.
Probably the moment.
You're done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if I really start to see that visibility stop moving with me, I'm turning around, right? Because obviously there's going to be a wall there or something like that. So that's a big one. And then let's talk about clouds. Say we got some cloud layers and it's not what we determined, and now we've descended, right? Maybe we're like, let's get a little lower.
Okay, so we have our planned altitude. Right? So let's say that's, I don't know, whatever, 1,000 feet. Let's call it 1,000 feet. So you have your planned altitude, you're flying at 1,000 feet, and then what happens?
So your instructor's like, oh, you know what? Let's descend. Let's go 700 feet.
Okay.
Right?
So you descend down to 700.
That's right. So in your mind, you should be keeping track of like how many things are changing.
Okay.
Right? And
this is something we decided before we went to fly.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. right? So we said we're going to go fly at 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, whatever. We descend. We're like, the ceilings, and I want a little bit of space, and I've descended once,
Yep.
right? Is it fine? Are we continuing, or are we thinking to ourselves, maybe a little bit lower? So now we've done it twice. That's 2, right? 2 red flags that pop up. At that point,
So now we're maybe 500 feet.
maybe we're 500 feet,
Yeah.
right? First of all, if I ever hit 500 feet, I'm turning around. I've done that on multiple photo flights,
There you go.
right? And
So that's that in and of itself, not to mention the descending thing.
Yes.
We'll come back to the descending thing, but maybe your en route decision trigger is 500 foot. I'm turning around.
absolutely. If I hit 500 and I'm like, boom, and I still feel like I could use some more, I'm immediately turning
So
around.
that's a great one. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's go back to the descending one.
Yeah. Say we're 1,500 feet, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Climb
Right?
it up.
And I've descended, and I said, okay, let me drop down 1,200 feet or so.
Yep.
I don't know. The clouds in here, they're still feeling a little low. Let me go to 900 feet, 900 feet. Boom. I've just descended twice.
Yeah.
I've deviated off my altitude twice
Yeah.
now. And you see where the trend is going? You got to kind of pick up on that.
Yeah, but as pilots, I don't know what it is, but we have that mission in mind where we want to get there, right? So we're like, I think I can see through. It looks like it gets clearer. Well, it looks like maybe the clouds are climbing. So maybe I'll just descend one more time, get a little bit lower, and then I'll be able to get through.
The real mission is to get back home.
There you go.
That's what it is.
So this en route decision trigger we're talking about is maybe 3 times that you descend or 2 times you descend.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself lowering that collective that many times, whatever your en route decision trigger is, right? Let's say that second or third time hits and you decided before the flight, if I lower that collective 2 times but below my intended route, that's it.
Yep.
That's my trigger. I'm turning around. It's the end of the flight. It
Yep.
doesn't matter if it looks like blue sky just 2 miles further. It doesn't matter, right?
Because that's not the point.
The trigger has already been set.
Yeah.
So that we don't get ourselves into trouble. So that's the point. You turn around. What's another one that we can use?
I will do decelerations the same way.
Ooh, that's a good one because you get nervous and you start slowing down.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Now we're slow, and then if I start descending and decelerating all at the same time, something is wrong in front of me.
Okay, so we're planning. Let's go back to our original line: 1,500 feet and 80 knots, and we're cruising on a cross country flight.
And now it's raining.
And now it starts raining. We slow down to 70.
And now the clouds start coming in, and so now we're decelerating and descending.
So then you slow down to 60.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your maybe you have an airspeed limitation, or maybe you have a deceleration limitation on your decision triggers. So now let's say it's 60 knots. If you have to slow down because of weather to 60 knots, that's your trigger. Oh, there it is. I saw 60 knots. I'm turning around.
Yeah, I like 60 knots. I think that's great. If you feel like you got to be any slower, then you don't need to be out there. I think for me, it's the number of times that I'm decelerating, because for me, if I'm decelerating, usually it's a visibility thing.
Yeah.
And so something's deteriorating. And so see how these things stack up on each other real fast. And so, if I'm descending and decelerating, I'm turning around. Right?
Okay.
That's like, for me, if it's both at the same time, boom, that's probably something significant in front of me. That's not something 10 miles from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a real world one that I have. If I scoop my butt forward in the seat, right?
Yes.
That moment when I scoop my butt forward in the seat and I try to look out the window a little bit
leaning
harder,
forward.
That's mine. I'm like, oh, that's it.
What about our brain says if we just try really hard, we can just see through anything, right?
Because that, a couple inches that I scooted forward is really going to help.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. So that's literally happened to me before.
Yeah.
I've literally been in that scenario where you start trying to lean forward, look out, scoop forward a little bit just to see a little bit better. And I'm like, oh, no, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm turning around.
And usually other things are jumping out at you, it's not very often that people punch in without there being some sort of decision-making process that led to it.
That's right.
right? And so you got these, wispy clouds, low visibility go by you, right? If I hit 2 of those, I'm turning around, right? Because obviously I'm getting into something, right? If I have that layer of cloud in front of me was at a reference on my windscreen, and all of a sudden it starts coming down my windscreen, I tell my students, it's like the fat lady dropping the curtain on you, right? You get out of you're about to get into something. You need to get out of there pretty quick, right? I actually show a video in our CFI orientation for all of our new CFIs of I was in the pattern with one of our young CFIs, and I was specifically talking about it was, it was a special VFR type of day. Great experience, great day to fly. And I was sitting there specifically talking about what it looks like and how we need to always be vigilant about what the ceilings are, right? And we turned downwind, and all of a sudden, boom, starts dropping down on us. And I was like, whoop, there it is. We're getting into something. And immediately we deviated and went right back to the taxiway, and then terminated our flight afterwards. And it was so funny because in the video, for like the minute and a half before that, I'm teaching that.
Oh, that's great.
And then boom, we saw it immediately. And so it's really good. I want to talk about, and I think this is a great way to finish this off, is how we make that decision. Because it's not an easy decision to make.
Can I do one more before we get there?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So I just wanted to touch on real quick this idea of, we had the en route decision trigger. We turned around. Now we turned around. What happens if it's worse behind us?
Oh.
And
great
this
exercise.
This is where Matt Zuccaro, his big thing was land the damn helicopter.
Yes.
Right. We don't need a runway. That's the moment you look down, you look for a safe place, you find a field, and you land.
Yeah.
Because you're fine. You get on the ground, you're fine. We're going to deal with it. You can wait it out. You can call us, like whatever it is. Make sure it's safe. Make sure there's no wires, no people. Do a recon, but land it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. And so many people fight that so hard. They don't want to do it. They don't want to make that decision. But you gotta, in that moment, you have to land the helicopter.
Absolutely. So, in interviews throughout the rest of your career, right? They're always going to ask you about decision making. They're always going to ask you about an emergency you experienced and how you handled that and all that kind of stuff. And if you go out and said, hey, the weather looked great. We went out to do a training flight and it deteriorated really quickly around us. It wasn't forecasted or anything like that. We, boom, had en route decision triggers. We turned around. We said, this is what the plan is. We hit those marks. We turned around. Weather was bad. I made a precautionary landing here and we waited it out and then we're able to fly back safely. I'd be really blown away if you didn't get that job.
Oh, man.
As an operator, it'd be like, woo, this guy.
Yep. They're going to bring your customers home safe.
Exactly. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. Land the damn helicopter, right? Amazing. And I'm always happy to go pick anybody up, right? In that situation.
Absolutely.
No problem.
We'll do it every day.
So,
okay.
Thanks
for letting me finish that one up.
Yeah. No, that's a great one. So we've just turned around, right? I've turned around, half a dozen times, whether, that cell doesn't look good, that fog rolled in, that's weird, right? And you turn around, right? It always helped me, instead of going, oh, my day is ruined and my schedule, and this was somebody was supposed to fly this next and all that kind of stuff. And I always turn around and I always paint the picture for myself in that moment.
Okay.
Of this is great. This is a good decision.
Yep.
This is going to be excellent. So I was in the gorge and we were coming back close to Bonneville. We had just passed Cascade Locks and had a cell roll in. And as soon as it rolled across the gorge, it started just dropping all of its moisture. And visibility went to absolutely nothing. So we descended once. And then we started feeling like we needed to slow down. And then I caught myself like, where's my road, right? And you start thinking about precautionary landing sites.
Yeah.
And for me, that's another trigger. Boom, I turned around.
That's it.
Immediately. I was like, that's it. I'm thinking about the road right now. I've just ascended. I've just decelerated. That's it. And immediately in my mind, I went to thinking, I'm going to go over to Cascade Locks and I'll have lunch. And I painted it as just this beautiful, wonderful picture for myself.
Yeah.
And mentally, you just have to focus on that positivity of like, no, this is good. This is a good decision. Don't worry about the rest of the day. Like, it is what it is, whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
It's aviation.
That's right. Right? And I just painted it as like, I'm going to go have lunch in Cascade Locks. And it just painted it as this positive thing for myself. And you know what? The decision wasn't that hard.
No.
It's not hard. It's not hard. It's a hard decision to kind of break through that barrier. And so for all of my deviations, you know, if I've had to deviate from a plan, I've done that. And I've said, okay, this is great. This is no problem.
Yeah.
Right? This is a good decision. This is a good plan. And you go with it and you don't second guess yourself, because as soon as you start second guessing yourself, right? Don't do that.
Yep.
Don't make the decision and just decide to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And decide to land the damn helicopter if you need to.
Yeah, the other option is you can paint the other picture, right? And I think this is important to do. Maybe not as you're flying, but ahead of time, is painting that picture of what happens if I don't make that good decision. What happens when I punch in and I go in inadvertent and something terrible happens?
Yeah.
You paint the worst picture and you say, man, all the people on board, all the people I'm supposed to be protecting, because of my pride, because of my inability to turn around, because I didn't want to, land and call my boss. The other option is the worst case, and that's killing a bunch of people. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is. Yeah. No, you're right.
And that's, what's worse there?
Yep. Exactly.
What's worse?
Yeah. And we're all asked to do those flights.
Yeah.
Right. We're all asked, and you'll have those flights, and I always tell whoever I'm flying with, I said, and I always said, this is my briefing. And I said, we're going to go out and we're going to make decisions that we're going to be proud of.
Yep.
And then if we do that, we know we're coming home tonight.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I think, we started off just talking about weather and what it looks like here and making the most of it. And I think that's really good, and I think we should. But the most important thing is that we're out there making good decisions, and making the right decisions in the moment is sometimes hard. But deciding in our heads, deciding in our minds before we ever get out there what we're going to do and how we're going to do it is what's going to save our life.
That's right. That's right. For me, the weather doesn't hold me back here. The winter doesn't hold me back.
Oh, no, not at all.
Right? It is a teaching thing, just like the summer is. I mean, honestly, we talked about it when we talked about the hot weather stuff and off airports and the hills and all that kind of stuff. I mean, these seasons teach you things, right? Go out, experience it, enjoy it, make it a valuable experience for you that will help you for the rest of your career. And that's what we do here.